You're tuning in to Why We're Here, honest conversations about companies worth joining, with Amit Matani, CEO of Wellfound.
Hey everyone, I am here with Shensi, the co-founder of Merge. Hey Shensi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So talk to me a little bit about Merge. I know what you guys do because we use Merge, but tell me a little bit about what Merge does for our audience.
Yeah, you do use us.
Yeah.
We're very proud of that. Merge helps companies add integrations to their products with a single unified API. So what it is a normalized data model that allows you to read and write data in a single.
It's really cool because I remember when you guys were founded and I saw it, maybe it was a TechCrunch article and stuff, and I was like, crap, we should have done this. It's such a good idea. We've gone through so many ATS integrations and they all suck and it's all annoying. And it's like, oh, this is like, what a great idea to kind of like do this and make everybody's lives easier. So tell me about the founding story. Like, why was this a problem that you wanted to solve?
So I came from a cybersecurity company in San Francisco, and I was chief of staff to the CEO. So I had unique exposure to the P&L statement, exec things, board meetings. And one thing that just kept coming up around 2018, 2019 was integrations. At the time, we really felt like we had the strongest product in the market, but a lot of our competitors had more integrations than we did. And what we were seeing was that they kept beating us on sales deals, even though we had a superior product. And it was really, really frustrating for our go-to-market team. So after a lot of yelling and screaming, we finally decided to invest in building those integrations. We hired a large engineering team to focus specifically on building ticketing integrations for our product. And it was very, very expensive. And for us to even launch a single integration, it required us having around 6 engineers. It took a very long time. There was a lot more to it than we really expected. And I think I was very fortunate at the same time. One of my best friends from college was head of engineering at a recruiting tech company that it just raised from Sequoia. And he didn't have enough engineers to be able to assign one of his team members to build these integrations. So he was building the integrations himself. And he just looked really horrible. Like when I saw him, I was like, why are you working so much? Like what's going on? And he had personally committed to building certain integrations for his team. So it ended up fully consuming him. And after the integration was done, he was never able to really let go of it. His customer success team would keep looping him in. There was so much more to it than he really expected. And it got us really thinking, even though we were in very different industries, fundamentally we're running into a very similar problem. So why is no one solving this?
Yeah. So what pushed you to solve it? Because, it's funny because I've talked to so many recruiting tech founders before you all, and they were like, oh yeah, ATS integrations suck. ATS integrations suck. We knew it sucked. But nobody was like, oh wait, I could make a company out of this. Like, was it the fact that you saw it in kind of two industries or like, okay, this is generalizable, not just to ATS stuff, but also to like other types of integrations?
I think so. I think if I had also come from a recruiting company too, I think we would have been like, oh, this is just like a part of recruiting tech. Like it's not something that's super common. But because cybersecurity and recruiting are so different, but the patterns were so similar, it really got me thinking. And it helped that I came from a finance and investing background as well. I was able to really see like, okay, so this is a problem for our companies. This is also a problem in other industries like sales ops. This is also a problem in marketing ops. Is this a problem in like productivity tools? And it turns out every single B2B SaaS company runs into this problem and no one was solving it. And it was going to keep getting worse and worse.
That's really cool. So tell me a little bit about the vision. Like 5 years from now, Merge is one. What does it look like? What have you all accomplished? And what are the big milestones along the way?
I want every company to be using Merge. Anytime you think of a B2B SaaS company, they're using Merge. That's what I just like how you think of everyone using AWS or like one of the, let's remove this part. Or just like you think of everyone using AWS.
Yeah, sure.
I want people to be thinking of using Merge.
Okay.
And the milestones for us to get there, we need to continue, to be honest, like there's nothing that's fundamentally different from what we're doing now, other than we need to keep focused. We need to keep going. We need to keep capturing the market. We have to keep building a better and better product. And we need to be like the number one company that you think of when it comes to this problem.
And like, talk to me a little bit about, you all started in 2019. There was like, I think 2018? 2020. Oh, wow. 2020. What a great year to start.
Yeah. The worst year of all time.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because like you started in 2020, worst year started, then 2021, 22 is like everybody's high flying. Then we hit a downturn. Now AI is a big thing. Like, tell me a little bit about kind of the journey over the last few years and how the product has changed or like the market has changed and stuff. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
I feel like some companies just like always find like the right time to fundraise where it's like 1000x multiple. And then I feel like every time we fundraised was always like the worst time. Maybe 2021. 2020 fundraised in June.
Oh wow.
It was still pretty like peak COVID. It was still weird doing Zoom calls. Like people weren't fully used to it yet. And we had to go through a fundraising fundraising process, and when a lot of companies were really scared about investing, when a lot of VC firms were scared about investing in companies. And Gil and I, we decided to be in the same COVID bubble. So we were, I was cycling to his apartment. We were just code all day. And then finally we decided to fundraise. Yeah, it was very scary. And we ended up having to learn a lot about what it was like to fundraise completely over Zoom and never meeting someone in person. But luckily, NEA ended up leading our seed, and I had known them previously from them being on the board of the company that I worked at previously, which was very fortunate. So at least we had some kind of rapport. For our Series A. This was when we were just getting our first customers out. And to be honest, that was a lot easier for fundraise. Yeah. Looking back now, and I actually mentioned this a lot to our Series A investors, I was like, wow, there was really not a lot of information, but we were really at it. We were working super hard. We were meeting with anyone who would meet with us, and we were just coding all day, recruiting all night, selling on the weekends. It was really whenever we could meet with anyone and we could do anything, we were working. Yeah. And because a lot of other companies were remote, we were able to work in person and just move really, really, really fast. And then fast forward to our Series B, the market totally crashed. It was a horrible time to fundraise. And then alas, we fundraised again. And at that time, it was still pretty Wild West for us. It was very early in the market. We were mostly selling to a lot of startups where we just weren't sure what our go-to-market motion looked like. But we fundraised from Excel, and it was a really great time to fundraise because I think we knew after that period, we were going to need to grow up a lot. We were going to need to invest a lot in our go-to-market motion and advance there significantly. We need to invest in post-sales and really understand what it was like to sign on a customer and make sure they were successful after. And of course, we need to invest a lot in our scalability and enterprise readiness. So the past 2 years have really been us focusing a lot on that. And I'm really proud with where we've gone from then.
That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about, what's your pitch to candidates? Why is Merge a great place to work?
Everyone at Merge, and I hate to make it sound like I am this mom, but everyone at Merge is so special. Gil and I personally interview all of our team members, and it's really important that every single candidate that makes it through the process meets one of the founders, because we know we have a very strong vision for our culture. We want Merge to feel like everyone is super smart, everyone is very friendly, and everyone is really energetic and enthusiastic. Because I think when you are in a meeting and the person next to you is just they don't give a fuck, they don't care, they're not going to respond to your Slack messages, they're barely coming to work, they just they clearly do not care. That impacts your experience and it makes it so you don't want to care as well. Totally. But if everyone around you really cares, and even if you're having a day where you're just a little bit off, it energizes you and it brings you back to really wanting to make sure the whole entire team is successful. And then also just being around everyone else, you care about them. And so you want to make sure the entire team is successful. And so you try your best as well.
How do you maintain that as the company grows, right? I think it's easy to do in this 10, you're against the world. We're 10 people, we're against the world. We're trying to figure everything out. Everything matters. And the company gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's I think there's this natural tendency of people to start thinking about okay, what's best for me versus what's best for the entire organization. Are there things that you all have done practically to kind of combat that, shift a bit?
I think it comes from hiring people. You can't change someone. And so you have to hire people who want to be a part of a team and want to be a part of something greater. If you're hiring someone who's going to just focus on what a company gave them and what happened to them and what is going on for them, what you can provide for them, if you can tell in the interview process, they're probably not going to be the best fit for an early stage company.
Are there things that you look for in a profile, or is this something you kind of have to just see once you talk to them?
You have to see from talking to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you think about the organization right now, paint me a picture of what the organization looks like right now. How many people are you? Where are you located? Kind of what's the breakdown between sales and engineering? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
We're currently 110 people, 30 people, around 30 people in 30 to 35 people in San Francisco, around 70 people in New York City, and then 5 people in Berlin. We're pretty standard with the ratio of R&D to S&M spend, S&M spend in terms of headcount. So it's around 40% in R&D, 40% in go-to-market, and 20% in G&A and other.
So you mentioned that you all were early on staying in office versus going remote, and especially in 2020, that must have been really, really tough. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Was that something that was planned? Hey, we want to be in office because of speed, or is it just kind of a happy accident? Talk to me about that.
It wasn't fully intentional. I think what we noticed from me working with Gil in person was it was just really fun. Even when it was just us two, we were working super quickly. We could be really creative, and it just made us happier working together versus when we would have occasional work from home days, and it just kind of sucked.
Right.
And so what we were thinking was, okay, well, maybe we won't be able to have a full company stay in person all the time, especially if COVID keeps going on. But maybe while the team is small and we're very safe and careful about it, we can continue to do this for a bit. And as we got bigger, COVID got a lot better. And then now, of course, like we were really insisting on everyone being in person. But yeah, I think what we noticed was we were just having so much fun and we were moving so fast. And it really closed the loop on communication and made it easier for us to be able to be very honest and have difficult discussions early on versus having to tiptoe because you didn't quite know someone as well over Slack.
How does that work though with like the multi-office thing? People in Berlin, people in San Francisco, you're in New York. Like, how do you make sure that you still also have kind of that, in-person overlap between the multiple offices?
We co-locate certain teams. So certain engineering teams are co-located together. And the customer success team is international because we have customers located all over the world, but they're extremely tight. And the leader there is very, very good at making sure that the team has a strong culture. They're very, very close overall, even though they're located all over the world.
So talk to me about the culture. Like, what is it like to work at Merge? Like, one of the ways I like culture defined is like the behaviors that you, the behaviors that you punish and the behaviors that you reward. So like, what is rewarded at Merge?
Enthusiasm, caring. Yeah, it just trickles down to everything else. If you care a lot, you're going to work and make sure you're doing a better job than if you don't care at all.
What about on the opposite side? Like, what doesn't work well at Merge?
Unfortunately, the exact opposite. So if you don't care and it's very obvious that you don't care, it's super apparent in like in your output and your work ethic and how you interact with other team members and whether or not they can rely on you. Unfortunately, it really all just comes down to, do you care enough?
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about like, how projects get done at Merge. So for example, like where do ideas come from? How do ideas go from idea to basically production? What does like launch processes look like?
It depends on the kind of project that it is. If it's a traditional engineering and product project where we know it's going to be rolled out to all of our customers, we've roadmapped it for a time. Usually what ends up happening is we accumulate customer feedback. We know what the feedback is. We have our product manager spec it, scope it, talk to customers, verify that that's what they want. We design it and then we end up roadmapping it and the engineering team works on it and we roll it out to a few beta customers and then we do GA. That's like an ideal state, but sometimes we just don't have fucking time. And what ends up happening is there's an urgent deliverable that we have to roll out immediately. And what we do is we spec it, we quickly build it. We have someone get pulled off or something else. We build it and then we roll it out to the customers that needed it and then eventually GA. Ideally it's the first date, but just given the state of startups and also just given how things change in the world, you have to do.
It's interesting because you all are building a platform for other people to use, right? And then they have customers of their own, which I think adds a level of complexity to your work, or at least like you guys can't go down, right? Like I'd be annoyed when you go down because it's going to affect us, right? In some way. So is there things that you have to do to kind of protect against that you wouldn't normally have to do at like a normal consumer or B2B startup?
Honestly, yesterday when Slack was down, I really felt the pain of what our customers feel whenever anything goes wrong with Merge, because I was like, oh my God, like I don't even know what to do right now. I mean, obviously we're in person, so I can
sure,
of course. But even felt we're so Slack reliant. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. Am I supposed to use email right now? Like, so because of that, we're extremely, extremely, extremely empathetic on the customer success side, and we've invested a lot in customer success. I think one thing that's just really important is just making sure that the customer feels like we're there, we're going to be responsive, and that we understand that this is critical for them. Because if you end up feeling like extremely overwhelmed and like you just don't know what to do because a provider is going under or has an issue, you want to be able to make sure that they understand why you're freaking out. And so we've always been very, very careful to make sure that we're extremely empathetic and that the entire company cares a lot about the customer.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is you all have like engineers, when we email you guys, like, an engineer will usually respond. Is that something that, came from something, or was that like, how did you decide that was going to be the way you handled customer success?
Everyone at Merge has to be technical. I think it was pretty clear up front. We tested a few experiments where we were like, oh, maybe, because I firmly believe anyone can do anything. I think as long as someone has set their mind to it and puts the time and effort, they can do it. So what we did is we tried testing it out by hiring some more non-technical people and really investing in them to become a little bit more technical. And to be honest, it worked pretty well in some areas, like account management, making sure they felt cared for, communication with them. But in the end, sometimes there's just a level of depth that is required for the customer. And we just needed to hire true engineers to be able to help support. And so we've done segmentation. There are certain talents for certain needs. Like account management probably doesn't need to be as technical as like technical support. But for technical support, that's when like you need a true answer and you need to know that someone on the other end is an engineer and they can help you.
That makes sense. So talk to me a little bit about, when you think about talent selection, you mentioned that caring is really important. Like, what are you doing to talk to me a little bit about the interview process and how you figure out does this person actually have it? So it seems like also the other big thing you all do is one of the founders has to talk to every single person. But I'd love to hear a little bit more.
So in the hiring screen, it's pretty important that one, we mention what Merge is going to do. Where is Merge going to go? Why do we need this role? And why is this role so important? It's important upfront to mention what an impact this person is going to have on the business, because no one wants to come in and be like, oh, like, why am I here? Like, is this doing anything? But we also really front load the areas that might not be as attractive to a candidate. So I mentioned upfront, I'm demanding. You're going to work a lot. You're also going to have to be in the office. Are you okay with that? If you're not, totally fine. There's plenty of opportunities that are probably going to be really great for you. But for a certain profile and for a certain person, we're just the only opportunity that is like this. And so if you want that, we are the best company for you. So we really try to front load that even from like the very initial recruiter screen. And then every single round, we keep iterating. This is in person. You're going to have to work a lot. How do you feel about that? You can't really like opt out here. You're going to have to care. And you have to, every single time you have that conversation, you are reminded you're going to have to care. If you don't want to, totally fine. But you're going to get reminded. And then finally, in the founder interview, we really, really try to understand like, what is your intention in your life? And like when you're choosing your career path, why did you make these certain decisions? What was driving you? What made you decide to go into this career path versus another one? Why did you switch career paths? Why did you switch companies? What makes you happy at work? Can we make you happy at work? And it's fine if we can't, and it's fine if it's not a fit, but it's really important that we are mutually aligned. And for a lot of times, especially with leadership roles, we only give one offer out and that person accepts because it is so clearly a mutual fit that we both understand that this is the right role for them. And we know that they're the right person for us as well.
So I'm a really big fan of like kind of laying your cards on the table and kind of being like, hey, this is going to be hard. We're demanding and everything else. But like, what do you all do to kind of pair that with like, cool, so what, right? Like, yes, I'll work hard, but why, right? Like, what is the why on the other side for you all?
Because you're surrounded by so many super smart and hardworking people. Like the quality of the talent here is just unparalleled. Like this is the company that I always wish I could have worked at because everyone's super smart, everyone's so friendly, and then they're smart. And so it's like the best of all worlds. Right. You're around all of these great people all the time. And you know that when you send a Slack message asking for help, you're going to get an answer. You know that when you send a deliverable out to someone, you know that they're going to do their best job. And that is a unique experience. And I don't want to dilute that. So that's also what we're offering you back. But it's not just that. It's not just the people that you're surrounded by. It's also we're really building something unique. We're building We're building the next generation of infrastructure for the internet. And there aren't that many like gaps currently in SaaS. Like I feel like most people have filled like AI, of course, created like a new wave and like a new wave of opportunity for companies. But like same with Merge. Like like this is a unique area that no one has solved, and it's only us. Like we can really solve this, and no one else can.
So one of the things that I found interesting while I was, and I guess I see you popping up on my LinkedIn a lot. It seems like you're really into making sure that your recruiting process runs well. Like you're deeply involved in it. You like to source with people. Where did that come from? Like why did you decide to like be that involved in recruiting?
Because from the very beginning, there was no one else recruiting but me and Gil. And when you start seeing how you can get much better talent by being aggressive, why would you not? Your life is in your hands. And that is something that I always tell people, but I don't even say it like that. Your life is your fault. That is the right. If you are like, oh, like I don't have great candidates, that's your fucking fault. You need to be outbounding. If you're not sourcing, that's your problem. Why are you not recruiting the best people out there? So I really firmly believe that you have to feel like your life is in your control. And if that means like hiring the best people, you need to be sourcing, you need to be reaching out. Sure, it's not fun. I don't love like, Saturday night, but like outbounding. But hey, I can watch Real Housewives and outbound at the same time. It's not that bad. And at least when we hire the best person ever, it adds a ton of leverage for the business.
And you do this, is this just for recruiting, or are you like doing this for other types of roles throughout the organization?
Everything. I yell at everyone about everything in a fun way, of course. Like same with pipeline. You are in control of your pipeline. You should be outbounding. You should be following up with customers. You need to be sending them resources. You need to be making sure they have the best experience of all time so that they want to join Merge. Everyone is in control of their life, and everyone is in control of making sure that Merge is successful.
That makes a lot of sense. So what are you most excited about for this year? Like what's the big swings for Merge this year?
So much. I mean, especially with AI, like so much has really changed for our business. Before, most companies, when they were going live, they only needed one or two categories that we offered. But now for all AI companies, they need every single piece of data because any piece of customer context can make their product more powerful.
That's really cool. Well, Shensi, this has really been awesome hearing more about you, especially since we're a customer. Thanks for your time. If people want to learn more about Merge, where should they go?
They can just go to www.merge.dev, and you can also just get a demo by clicking the button on the top right.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Why Work Here. Ready to find your next role or discover top talent? Visit us at wellfound.com.